First of all, this is the voltage reading, 7.85 after pretty much 3 races, almost 3 races with the Mini. Now, this is the actual Mini race, and then after this I will show you pretty much the Tamiya race where one of my friends and I, so the first 2 cars, the other Mini in the back, number 4, that's also a very good friend, that's the red shell. But we accidentally crashed a 13.5. I'll tell you a little more about it later, accidentally. And then after that we ended up racing with Tamiya TT02 and Tamiya Euro Truck. So I have my thoughts on it. Now I've driven the Euro Truck. There's some old videos of me driving Euro. It was a fun little class, but I'll have a little more details in a bit. So let me talk about the Minis first. So these are M07s. Now that purple car in the front, that's an M07R. If I had to choose between an M07R and M07, I would get the M07R. There is a difference. So one of the main difference really is, well, one, you get turnbuckles, which I prefer the actual turnbuckles instead of the grub screws, which you sort of have to measure and guess. You can't really make adjustments unless you pop one out and then turn. Versus the turnbuckles, just finer adjustments. It's nicer. But the most important thing is actually the dampers. You get aluminum dampers with collars, so you can adjust the height instead of, for example, mine's just an M07. You have to use those little shims that go between the spring and the top collar in order to change your ride height. Now, both of us in these cars, so he is running a sway bar. I am not running any sway bars. He's running a sway bar in the rear. If I'm not mistaken, Extra Crispy, please go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong. You could also just type in, comment your 2 cents on your driving experience. But those are some of the driving. So motor, we're both running the same motor. We are running Reedy 25.5 turn fixed timing motors, so the FT, the 540 FTs. Very nice motors, very durable. The weather, very hot weather today. Well, I consider it extremely hot. For those of you that are in hotter weather, well, I feel bad for you. So it's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is approximately 38 degrees Celsius. The pavement, or the asphalt, here, this blacktop, is, according to somebody that was here, the individual said it was 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 55 degrees Celsius. Now, right now, it doesn't seem very exciting. To be honest, Qualifier 2 was a lot more exciting, the way we're battling it out. But now that he's stretched away, his car's a little faster. So, one, I do believe he's a slightly better driver because I let him. But I do believe the dampers make a difference, so I did purchase some of the aluminum dampers that I will be using. But to be honest, just get the R version, because in the end, once you buy all the hop-ups, you end up spending the same, if not more. But really, it's the dampers that I'm interested in. Maybe I'll get some turnbuckles, since I have to get some spares anyway. My F1 has a completely bent turnbuckle. If you haven't seen that video, I took a really hard hit and I got T-boned. I think that's where I broke the front left arm and just bent the turnbuckle, which I discovered later. I thought it was my horrible driving, and then I realized broken arm, and then a pivot ball on the opposite side was popped out. But anyway, Tamiya, so we're trying to keep these stock. My ESC is just a hobby wing, just stock ESC. There's no timing or anything. But they're very easy to drive, and believe it or not, you can traction roll. These are the front-wheel drive vehicles. And there's one vehicle here that's not a Tamiya M chassis. It's a 12 scale pan car, I believe. Team Associated, probably. I believe that's what somebody said. That's that one right there. It just popped on the screen. Beautiful body. But going back to these, they're actually very manageable, and well, even though I screwed up those lines, it's actually easier to sort of just play around, look at the lines, and then you can really tell because they're slow enough but fast enough to have fun, but slow enough to see where you're driving and sort of aim, point, and shoot. But notice how much closer I actually hit some of the apexes there. I don't know what happened there. But at least the sweeper was pretty nice. That one wasn't too bad. This one could have been worse. That was alright. But anyway, I'm not catching him to the other guy, but we do lap the other two a few times. That one Tamiya Mini had a mechanical problem. But really the most interesting thing is watching these go up against the Euro Truck. There's really just one Euro Truck and TT02. So let me tell you how we ended up accidentally crashing the 13.5, which I thought I had a video, but I think I lost the footage. We'll see. Maybe it's included. I'm just narrating on the fly. It's I didn't prepare anything. But this is the end of the race. But here we go. So let me explain. So I asked for permission to run with the other class, the Tamiya TT02 and the Euro Truck, and I saw that Euro Truck there after I'd asked for permission, so I thought those guys were practicing, and since one of them said, yeah, sure, why not, they can run, I jumped on the driver's stand. Here I have my Euro, so my buddy, see his purple car right there, he's getting ready. So now I cross the bridge, and I'm thinking, hey, this is a practice session. No, it turned out this was actually 13.5, so we ended up crashing their race. There's only two cars, so I guess who cares, because we didn't really get in their way or crash into them. Luckily, I would have felt horrible, to be honest, if that had happened. So my apologies to both of you that were driving 13.5s. It was a complete accident. But to be honest, for those of you watching this video, those guys were so cool. They didn't complain or do anything. They're just like, whatever, let's just race and have fun, which was really cool. And that's one of the things that I generally like about the crowd here. I mean, once in a while somebody might flip a lid, but for the most part, everybody's just chill, relaxed, you know, nice family environment. There's a few kids that come here as well. But here we are. We're racing against TC13.5, so they have to get out of the way. And again, there's a point, I think by this time we already realized that we accidentally crashed their race because we weren't starting from the top. We were thinking we were lining up, and it was a bit strange that there were well, we saw the touring car bodies, but we figured whatever, they're probably running touring car bodies under the TT02 chassis. But the guys that we know that run those never came up on the stand. So now you get an idea of what an M chassis with fixed timing motor and a blinky ESC, now you can see how they do against 13.5s. So those 13.5s are just way faster. If you look on the straight, I mean, these things are just crawling compared to those 13.5s. But still, yeah, my buddy and I mean, we just had a ball running these. So these M chassis, they're not that expensive. The R versions are maybe just over $300. I don't remember. Maybe they're under $300. To be honest, I have no idea, because it's been a while since I've researched the prices. But you can check. The fixed timing motors, those are less than $100, which is really good, because most motors, if you're doing a TC, he hit me. It was me. That's why I waited. So, quick note, if you're just watching this video for the first time and you're planning on getting into RC, if you accidentally hit somebody like I did, you generally just wait for that person to get back, pass you, and then you go. Ended up passing him, and then he passes me again. So this was actually more exciting than our actual race. Our actual race, I mean, he just took off. He didn't even know we were in the same county. I wasn't able to catch him, but here we're battling it out. And then at some point, to be honest, he waited for me, and then at some point I waited for him. So we were just having fun once we realized this was an actual race. But notice how sometimes one of us will pass the other one, and the other one will pass again. There I crashed and I had to get out of the way. But like I said, if you're planning on getting into racing, M chassis is pretty inexpensive. Like I said, you can get the R version, which has all the bells and whistles, for about $300, let's say, as of the time of this video. Or you can get the regular one, which I'm driving for, ooh, don't quote me on this, I want to say it's under $200. But then the reader motor, fixed timing motor, it's under $100. Most touring car motors, they're $100 or more. I think I paid about 60 or 70 for this one. Let's go with 70. And then the ESC, I'm just running a just stock ESC by Hobbywing. That thing's 55 maybe. Now the servo, I am running a nicer servo. It's a ProTech servo. It's the 160 SS, I believe. It's a pretty nice servo. And then my Futaba electronics. Now I'm going to try to speed up because the Tamiya cars are coming on, and then I'll talk about it. So there's the Euro Truck, and then some TT02s are coming. And again, thank you so much to those guys that were running the 13.5s. It was a complete accident, but you guys were just so cool about it and just let us run there. It was awesome. And definitely a shout out to the race director and all of the staff for allowing us to do a few more races to try to promote the M chassis class, because to be honest, it's really fun, and it's not that expensive compared to some of the other vehicles that are out here. And to be honest, now that we're running, it's really up to you to judge, but I'm going to tell you, notice those mistakes that I made right there, and then the purple car on the back, that's my buddy's car, so that's these are the only two M chassis here. The I think, wait, hold on, is that one between us another M chassis? I can't tell. No, I think that's a TT02 that has a similar body to the other M chassis. But that's a Euro Truck, so notice the speed. They don't really seem that fast, but handling is so much better. Something that the Euro Trucks do. This is assuming they're built to spec, which when I used to run the Euro Truck, it was built to spec. There's no oil in the dampers. There's no modifications to the motors. I mean, it's not like you're not supposed to crack the can and then sort of tweak a little to kind of affect the timing on the brushed motor or whatever. You can't flip the shocks upside down per the rules. But anyway, I'm not going to go into those details. The point is, their bodies are heavy. They hop a lot if you're going too fast. They just, well, I mean, they're still fun, right? Sometimes they'll, that rear end will sort of try to pass the front. But then you look at the TT02s. Now, these TT02s, red shell, go ahead and remind me, it's the Tamiya brushed motors, right? Can you remind me of the model? But anyway, the red shell is here. So the minis are keeping up, and they're actually faster. They handle really nice. They're quicker. They're slightly smaller scale. There isn't really a scale. They're just called M chassis, but they're very similar to 12 scale. So they're technically considered a 10 scale, but mini. And the best way I can describe it is, think about it this way. Imagine if 10 scale were similar to a, let's just say a Toyota Camry. If Toyota Camry was the base, and then you shrink that down to a tenth of the size. And then you take a Mazda Miata and shrink that to a tenth of the size. So they call it a 10 scale based on that. But if you compare it to RC 10 scale, and RC 10 scale is a specific length, regardless of the body, you would have to either stretch or shrink whatever body you wanted. So if we use by just a standard scales for RC, it's probably close to a 12 scale. But here we go. We're playing, so notice all the other cars are up there. We passed most of them. Now, I'm going to end up screwing up if I'm not mistaken in this race. So instead of ending, and I'm definitely not going to get first, I'm going to screw up. My buddy's going to overtake. Plus, like I mentioned, he's got all the suspension mods, so I'm going to blame that. So he's going to get first place, but I think I screw up, and then I get passed by one of the cars, and I end up getting third. But anyway, it's if everybody were to run a clean race, there's no contest. Oh, I just realized one of the TT02s is out. That's the one with the red chassis. The other one has a blue chassis, the Supra that's out there. So it's a blue chassis, and then the red one's out. But once again, if you were to pick one, I would say the M chassis. And they seem to be pretty durable. Euro Truck, I never broke mine, but some people have. Some people do break. I mean, anything can possibly break. But usually I guess the Achilles heel for many people is the wheels. Those rear wheels tend to break easily for many people. Luckily, I never had that happen, but I hear it happens a lot. I mean, one of my buddies, the Red Shell, he's broken a few of those rear wheels. Now the TT02, I'm not sure what happened to that one, but I know one of these TT02s had a problem with the arms. The arms wear. I do have an M08 build, just step by step, in the channel. I don't have an M07. They're very similar. Most of it's very similar, but the reason why I don't have an M07 is, to be honest, I just wanted to enjoy the build for my M07, and doing a video just kind of takes away from it a bit. But maybe I'll do one in the future if I can get somebody with an M07 that will just lend it to me to do a build in the future. But we'll see. But anyway, the point is, minis, they're incredibly fun to drive. They're really, really fun, very easy to drive. They're front wheel drive, so if you go on the side, just point the tires down, accelerate, and then it'll upright. Most of the time, if you use a hatchback body, such as the bodies that we're running, most of the time they'll roll over and go back on the tires. Sometimes they will land straight on the paint, but it happens. Don't crash. But that being said, I hope this was informative, or at least entertaining. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.
What? Oh, my hair! My tongue! My room!